Hey guys, so today we're going to be covering another installation in my top 10 units list for Dragon Ball Legends. This is the February 2023 edition, so if you're watching this in the future, just keep that in mind. Before we get into the actual rankings, I always like to quickly discuss 3 points regarding the list, which are as follows. Number 1, all characters are considered at 14 stars, best teams, best equips, max title boost, etc. Essentially, the best possible environment for each character, as I think it makes the most sense to judge each character at their max potential, and that's also how I experience using each character the most. Number 2, I like to view this top 10 ranking as a top 10 best characters in the current meta, instead of just a, who are the 10 best characters in the game list, as the meta is something that is constantly changing and evolving. So just because a character is ranked 5 on this list doesn't necessarily mean they will always be better than the characters ranked 6 through 10. So please view this list as a current meta snapshot of the game. And number 3, this list consists of rankings that are entirely of my own opinion, which have been formed from my personal experience playing the game. So please feel free to disagree with the list, and again, let me know down below if you disagree and why. However, this time, I also do want to preface this list by saying that the developers have been making a much more of a concentrated effort in giving each character sort of like a unique defining trait that a lot of the time will have significantly different implications with regards to how that character is used in a fight. So for example, Ultra Hit on the screen right now, his time skip, Master Roshi's Mafuba, etc. So with each character having those unique abilities / mechanics, in my opinion, it's become a bit more difficult to directly rank each character next to each other across sort of like an even playing field. So this particular list definitely was, I think, the most difficult list for me to make up until this point, just due to the, the design choices of a lot of the recent characters. So with that in mind, not only did I look at the overall performance of each character as a complete package, but I also extremely heavily weighted the unique and defining traits of each character and how much those abilities specifically directly impacted each fight. So with that being said, let's start talking about the actual rankings themselves, starting with number 10. Coming in at number 10 on the list, we have Red Dragon Ball Super superhero Pan, who, is definitely starting to feel the effects of a lot of these newer and more powerful characters of, being a large presence in the game. A character that now is how many months old? I believe she came out in November, so December, January, February, approaching 4 months old here. I think once you start to hit 4 months old, it's not that uncommon to start falling off a little bit, gradually. It's not like this character just fell off a cliff all of a sudden, but I think the major event that happened within the past 3 months that really affected this pan the most is just the existence of Android 17. Android 17 is a character that I probably encounter, I would like to say, 70% of the time. And the only reason why it's as low as that is because a lot of the time people are using Beast, Pan, and Ultra Gogeta, right? That triple setup is a very common setup. I don't think it's the best team in the game at this point anymore. I think 17's existence has sort of broken that up a little bit. But 17's existence, and the reason why maybe it broke up a little bit, is because of the existence of 17 sort of displacing this Pan from her throne. Throne being just she had a pretty decent reign over the entire game, with the only real strong blue character besides Beast himself being Zamasu. But now we have teams where you legitimately are seeing multiple blue characters, and this Pan really not having the greatest offense, and this Pan really not having the greatest defense, her main role being a sub-count manipulating character and a character that is able to obviously provide support for the rest of the team. But I think one of the biggest functions of this character that not many people mention is how fast she's able to farm Rising Rushes. The fact that her blue card gives her a Dragon Ball, and also the fact that you oftentimes do actually end up picking up Dragon Balls from her green card that she generates from her main ability, a lot of times ends up with this character being able to generate rushes for you within 20 counts on a consistent basis. So that is a very strong thing that she does. Type neutrality is really good. So even though 17 is prominent within the meta, I think type neutrality for this Pan definitely does provide her with at least some way to mitigate the effects of that 17 being blue. Zamasu is still pretty widely used. And then, of course, Beast, you see him very often still. So a lot of very strong blue. I would say blue is easily the strongest color in the game. Blue and probably purple. I don't know. It's one of those two. But yeah, strong character. Again, just starting to slowly feel the effects of power creep, and just 17's presence hurts her a bit. So Pan 10. Let's move on to number 9. Coming in at number 9 on the list is going to be the yellow Zenkai LF Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So this guy got his Zenkai just before Legends Festival. So, you know, like in between the Beast Gohan release and the Tag 4 releases when we really started to see a lot of these GT buffs start happening with a lot of these Zenkai characters, with this guy being in the mix there. So again, similar time frame in terms of him slowly getting pushed down. But I think more so than this character actually himself sort of being power crept, more so it's just the fact that the GT team overall is kind of in a worse position than they were back when this guy was in his heyday with GT. The heyday of GT being sort of like the middle of Legends Festival, right? With the Tag 4 release, with the Purple 17 release, really strong team. And I think they were really good against a lot of the better teams during Legends Festival, including Future. Like GT had a very favorable matchup against that team. Really crippling Rose's ability to, rush the character he wanted to rush, being the Tag 4s, because they could have just switched out and stuff like that. And obviously they have the Tag element reverse factor as well. So that in combination with the fact that I didn't really take this into consideration for my placement for this character per se, but I think it is important to note that GT has historically been a tag that they don't really buff, like sprinkled buffs throughout the year. GT is more of a tag where they revisit it sporadically during major celebrations. So for example, 2nd year anniversary, we saw some pretty decent GT buffs. 3rd year anniversary, we saw some pretty decent GT buffs. And then more recently for Legends Festival, we saw some decent GT buffs. GT is not a team where they're going to throw you like an LF character randomly in like randomly in like October, right? And it's like, oh, we got an LF Maju or something like that. It's not going to happen really. GT is more of a team where they just conglomerate a ton of updates in terms of characters, equipment, all at one time, and that's where we start to see buffs for GT. And it's very possible that because that's the way they like to handle the GT team, the next set of buff after buff after buff for the team could be, let's just assume it'll be Legends Festival this year. So Legends Festival 2023, we get a ton of buffs for GT. Very possible this guy doesn't even make the team at that point. So I don't know if this character is going to age particularly well, but we will see. It's really impossible for me to call that, but that is something to keep in mind for this character. But one other issue for this guy, and I think I don't see as many people running this character as I would assume, just because I think he's better than people think. But Ultra Hit, who we'll be talking about in a little bit, is like the biggest counter of all time for this character, right? You touch this character with somebody on your team, like let's say you're fighting against this Goku. You touch this Goku with, let's just say, Blue 17. You land a single strike card against this Goku. If Hit has access to his time skip, he's dead. Like, you cannot do anything. You switch it to Hit, use your time skip, and he's dead. This character cannot survive a time skip from Hit. Pretty much unless it's like a 14-star version of this Goku. You have like a 5-star Hit, and you build this Goku to be completely defensive. And Hit got really unlucky with the cards that he drew during his time skip. Like, there's no way this Goku's living that. And I think that is a pretty significant, that does have a pretty significant effect on my rating of this Goku overall, because Hit, I don't think you see him as much as you should, but it's not like you don't see him at all. I see Hit pretty frequently, but it's not like, 70% of the time I'm running into Hit or anything like that. But overall, again, more so than this character sort of like getting power crept, it's more so that GT just hasn't really been able to compete at that same level that it did during Legends Festival. So Yellow Super Saiyan 4 Goku number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Coming in at number 8, we have Blue Zamasu, a character that I really do like, and I don't think my personal outlook on this character really has changed that much since he initially released. My biggest problem with this character is if we take a look at his tags, so his teams, he has 4 teams, right? He's on God Ki, Future, Regen, and Powerful Opponent. Future kind of just disappeared as soon as Blue Gogeta released, because they were really predicated on you having endurance to sort of fend off rushes. And also, Purple Rose definitely also has fallen off a little bit recently as well. So Future, I feel like actually, as crazy as it sounds, I feel like Future actually could get a few more buffs coming up here soon. We'll see. Whenever you guess that the next buffs that we could see for Legends are Future or movies, you are typically going to be correct. So it's never a dumb thing to say movies or Future will be getting buffs soon, or if that's what you predict to happen. Powerful Opponent has been relevant since Ultra Broly released. God Ki could work. God Ki, I think, is really the only one of these teams that actually has a solid position right now, especially with Gogeta Blue and the Revival Goku, which we'll talk about. But Regen is like trying to play like Where's Waldo? Like, where is Regen? Where is it? I don't know. It seemingly has fallen off the face of the planet Earth. I don't know. It's one of the great mysteries of our day is where is the regen tag? So if this guy actually had good support on regen, if he actually had good support on powerful opponent, if Future, you know what's the saddest part about Future is if Trunks and Vegeta were actually good, then Future would be a good team, and then therefore this character would have a much better spot on Future as like his main team, which it was definitely intended to be alongside the Zenkai 4 Purple Rose. So it just gets kind of sad that the chain reaction of Vegeta and Trunks not being as good as they should have been sort of impacting this character, because that's really where he was supposed to shine, and it just simply did not work out at all. So that's really my main issue with this character. It's not like his kit has fallen off at all. I think he still works fantastically as like a supporting defensive healing character. Like all those intangible effects that sort of look at this character and he's like, okay, he's kind of just a better Future Gohan, like a modern day LF Future Gohan almost. And I think that's definitely very good for him. Obviously, since he was released, Gogeta Blue just completely annihilates him. And take a look at some of the other characters that have come out. Roshi can seal him. Very good character against Ultra Hit, though, this Zamasu. One of the characters in the game next to 17 that really has the ability to sort of shut down his time skip ability. But that sort of brings us to another point about 17 existing, which I think a lot of the times you would run teams and just sort of throw this guy in the leader slot because of the way that his kit works, like I just explained. Him being a defensive supporting healing character, a lot of those intangible effects, you want to have those on other teams that don't innately have access to those abilities. And so that makes for this character being an extremely powerful leader slot sort of like fiend, right? You just sort of throw him in the leader slot on any team and he can work. But guess who does everything this guy does, but better, essentially, is 17, right? So every time you think about putting this guy on the leader slot of a team, you just put 17 on the team instead, really, is what happened when 17 released. Same color. He has a better version of endurance. He has, I don't want to say better healing because it's different, right? He heals every time the enemy uses a blue or an ultimate. This guy heals with his main ability. They both provide support with their green card, depending on the team you're on, because 17 is a specific support. But I think 17 is overall just a way better individual unit than Zamasu is. So yeah, you just put 17 on the leader slot as opposed to this guy. The one area where it's kind of interesting is if you run this character next to 17, you can do like a blue team, just because of how strong the color blue is and how weak the color green is in the game right now. But other than that, I sort of fail to see like where this guy makes a massively major impact on the rest of the game because his teams just aren't there. So I think once we start seeing better, more buffs to especially regen, because regen just doesn't exist. Regen, Future, and powerful opponent. Like then at that point we could start seeing this guy make a resurgence back up through the list here. But one other point I will make about this character specifically is that I think him along with 17 will probably just outage most of the other characters on this list because of the way that they're designed and because most characters that come out don't offer the same intangibles that this character does. Again, very, very similar to the way Future Gohan was designed initially. So I see this guy aging very, very well. This guy will probably be on this list longer than most other characters are. But yeah, that's where I see him right now. Let's move on to number 7. Number 7 on the list is going to be Reviving LFUI Goku. Yes, I know this is already going to be the most controversial spot on the list here. And I'm not really sure what to tell you guys. I've used him pretty extensively at this point, and he's just felt very impressive to me. I think in a very few number of matches that I've played with this character, I mean, I've played, again, a lot of matches with this character at this point. There have only been a few handful of matches where I felt that he didn't really perform up to a certain standard that I expect of top-tier characters in this game. Offensively, he does a decent amount of damage. I think the fact that he's able to draw green cards when the enemy switches, and on top of the green card then restoring his vanish, means he actually is a decently capable character before he revives. He's able to draw a full hand of cards, key, and get cover null on his main ability. Again, very quickly able to grab you a Rising Rush through that. One thing people don't really talk about as much with this character is the fact that the blue card actually gives your enemy subcounts. So if you land the blue card and then follow with a blast, you can quickly rush people and they won't be able to really do much if they dodge the blast card. Or even if you hit them with the blast card, they really can't do much about it. It's a very strong mechanic that people don't really talk about that much that I think is really, really good for this character. So yeah, reviving character. We haven't really seen a reviving character in the game that's been relevant for a long time. The last character that revived before this unit was reviving Blue Frieza. So it's pretty much been a full year in between us getting revival characters. But obviously a very strong mechanic against characters like the LF androids, like Purple Rose, and of course Gogeta Blue. I think we will start to probably see more characters that have that effect where they actually can nullify endurance, whether it's just at all times or through Rising Rush, because of how prevalent the endurance mechanic has become with a lot of these top tier characters recently. A lot of times you're running into teams that have not just one, but two endurance characters on it. And now we have a revival character as well. So again, I'm not saying this character is good against Gogeta Blue, because obviously him being a green range character is not pitting him in a good position, to be fighting against Gogeta Blue in a 1v1 scenario. But I think the fact that the best color right now in the game being blue sort of like offsets this character's weakness to Gogeta Blue. So I don't really have a big impact on where I would rank this character based on him being a green ranged character right now. I think his advantage versus blue characters sort of offsets his disadvantage versus purple Gogeta Blue, just because he's got advantages and disadvantages depending on who you're fighting. A lot of blue characters, a lot of purple, and then Gogeta Blue is sort of like the one major purple character, so it sort of becomes neutral there. But yeah, I think him having a revive into basically a second full health bar, and then on top of that he has the gauge from UI Goku that starts out as a full gauge when you revive, and then is able to get another half of a full gauge with his main ability. Like, he's doing a lot of damage. Pretty much, I found that like you touch another character with this character post-revive as UI Goku, and you're able to combo for 60, 70 cards in a row. A lot of times you're able to grab another rush, doing decent damage. I mean, this character's not like breaking the bank in terms of damage or anything like that, but yeah, I think he's a good unit. I understand that people might have expected or wanted more from this character in terms of performance. In terms of like animations, I could definitely understand, because I definitely feel that them reusing a lot of the same animations post revival into UI Goku. Once you get into UI Goku, a lot of the animations are similar to the existing purple UI Goku, and I could definitely understand people were a little bit disappointed with that. But just purely looking at his performance, I definitely feel that I have him fairly ranked on this list here. So Revival UI Goku, number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Moving on to number 6, we have the tag Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. I'm not going to go into the details of what this character can do, because it's a very long laundry list of things, but I think this character is in a pretty similar position to number 9 on the list, which was Zenkai Ellis Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So I feel like, again, it's pretty similar. The fact that GT just has sort of fallen off a little bit. Again, it's not like they're unusable or anything like that. GT's still a very strong team. But obviously this character losing boost was a big impact. The fact that Hit exists, I keep on bringing up Hit, and I promise you we will get to Hit. But Hit is such a big counter to the GT team, and one of the reasons is because of this character. This character, one of their defining traits is the ability that they have where they can reduce ally subcount by 10 when the enemy uses an ultimate or a rush. So a lot of the times this character is protected because of that ability. So if the enemy tries to like catch you with an ultimate or catch you with a rush, they can just switch most of the time. Well, guess what they can't switch out of? A time skip. And then obviously for the yellow Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he can't switch out of a time skip, and then he just instantly dies to it because he's yellow. This character, I think the combination of that plus their defenses being pretty not good after boost, it's definitely very, very noticeable how much worse their defenses have gotten after the boost ended for them. So not only just Hit, but characters like, obviously Gogeta Blue, I'm not even going to talk about him because we know how much he destroys this character. Characters like 17, characters like Beast Gohan, characters like who else? Like Purple 17 if you're fighting an enemy GT player. Like Ultra Super Vegito can even do a lot of damage to this unit. Like a lot of like mid-tier damage characters, like damage-wise, not mid-tier characters in general, mid-tier damage dealing characters could actually, pose a significant threat to this unit just due to their defenses not really being at the level that it was under the boost. So that definitely has hurt them as well. But again, this character really hasn't been like significantly power crept. Again, sort of in a similar spot to the Zenkai Ellis Super Saiyan 4 Goku, where GT as a team just isn't in the greatest position when compared to a lot of these other better teams right now. So that's going to be LF Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, the tag character. I think once GT does get more help, we could definitely see a resurgence for this character. But we'll have to see once that does happen. So GT Super Saiyan 4 Goku Vegeta number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 on the list, we have Ultra Hit. So obviously the one thing we have to talk about is the time skip ability, and this is really where what I talked about at the beginning of this video comes into play, where a lot of these characters are being designed with specific unique mechanics as part of, you know, their identity almost, each character's identity. And so it becomes, again, like I mentioned, a lot more difficult to sort of rank characters like Hit next to, I don't know, like characters like Yellow Super Vegeta, for example. Just giving an example of like a character that doesn't really have like a defining trait like that. I guess you could sort of call as Unique Gauge 1, but more of like a generic character sort of. In that, like, you can't really look at like this character overall and compare him to another character, because overall I would say that he is extremely good, but the time skip is such a it's such a defining trait of this unit that you really have to give extra weighting, I think, to that ability. And then similarly to Roshi's Mafuba, like, you can't just look at Roshi overall and be like, yeah, well, he can't tank that well, or he doesn't do as much damage as other characters, so therefore he's not as good. Like, you really have to look at how valuable those individual mechanics are and take that into consideration heavily when you rank these characters. I think that's just the philosophy that I've adopted when making this ranking here. But the time skip, I think, is easily one of the most broken abilities in the game. I think the easiest way to think of the time skip as like a pseudo lock-in. And if you use it immediately upon switch in with this unit after landing a strike on the enemy, they actually don't even have enough time to switch before it activates. So it is insanely deadly against pretty much any non-blue unit, and even against blue units, because Hit does actually do extra damage versus blue characters. If you get lucky with the hand that you get with time skip, I actually have had my Hit fully just kill from full HP Beast Gohan. 14-star Beast Gohan, full HP, I've killed those from full HP with Hit during a time skip. It really is that broken. It really is. However, the two characters that you really want to be aware of are Blue Zamasu, since he can pretty much just safely live a time skip. Like, he's just the tankiest blue character in the game, right? And then also 17, since not only can 17 live the time skip, but his Unique Gauge can actually activate mid-time skip, which basically means that he gets healed and your main ability as Hit would be locked. So you have to either use the main ability before, or you just won't be able to use it at all. So, I mean, I don't really recommend time skipping 17 in general, but that's also something to keep in mind for other characters as well. So if you're fighting a 17, which again, 17 is in like almost every match that I have, but you want to lock in, for example, well, let's just say somebody's running 17 with like their Ultra Hit. So if you're attacking their Ultra Hit in the middle of a time skip, just keep in mind that if 17's gauge activates, then your main ability would be locked, and then you wouldn't be able to use your ult against Hit unless you pop it right away, which is typically what I do. If I know I'm going to go for the kill on somebody in the time skip, I usually almost always pop my main ability right away, so I can grab the extra crit and crit damage from the main ability, and then also have access to the ultimate, because I know it's not going to get locked by 17. And there are, there are so many top tier characters that just get absolutely clobbered by the time skip, and if you're good with this unit, it almost feels like a guaranteed kill a lot of the time. Ultra Gogeta Blue, Tag 4s, other Ultra Hits, literally any yellow unit in the game. We can keep going on and on and on. It's just so insane. And don't forget, you can do it multiple times per battle as well. It's not just limited to once only. In addition to his time skip, I also feel like he's pretty underrated defensively. I think, this is the first character we've seen who has an ability where he heals a percentage of his total HP every time the enemy uses a card. This is actually pretty powerful, especially for this character, because he actually does build up his blue card and ultimate damage whenever the enemy uses a card. It's only 5 times, but even if you're just sitting there with this character and taking combos, not even needing to build that up anymore, like, he actually does eat combos pretty well. It's not like he's on the level of like Zamasu eating combos, but for a character that is mostly supposed to be an offensive character, like, he actually does a decent job of tanking. So with all that being said, I guess the question is, why is he only at number 5, since I've spoken of him so highly? And I think the answer is because I would actually say this is a pretty bad meta for him. He actually did release at a pretty weird time, since the Universe Reps team has been pretty much specifically being built to be a heavily blast-based team, blast-based team. And this is a character that is super, we can take a look at his stats, super strike-based. Look at this. 270 versus 245. So yeah, very strange that they decided that they would release a super strike heavily based character with this Hit on a team that is almost specifically only based around blast characters. And on top of that, blue is easily, like I've mentioned, the best color in the game right now. So The value of this unit, I think, will only continue to increase into the future once the meta starts to shape itself around a more favorable environment for this hit to be good. So right now, he is number 5 on the list. Let's move on to number 4. Coming in at number 4, we have Master Roshi, the first ever Master Roshi sparking in the game. And really glad they decided to give this guy the justice that he deserves with how good they made him. Pretty similar position to Ultra Hit in the fact that this character is really designed around his defining mechanic, which is of course, Mafuba. The first time we've ever seen the quote-unquote sealing mechanic introduced into the game, which basically means that if you land his ultimate, which is the Mafuba, and the enemy has more than one character remaining, you can actually seal them away permanently until either they're the last member alive or until this Roshi is defeated. I think I talked extremely highly about Ultra Hit's time skip. Again, Ultra Hit was number 5, now we're on number 4. I would say that this Mafuba is actually even stronger than Hit's time skip a lot of the time. So for example, you're Roshi, and if I'm fighting, like if I'm trying to grind for God rank, I actually did a grind for God rank with this character on my team the prior season. And I think in the video, I did go like 17-0 with this character. It was this character, it was 17, and it was reviving UI Goku was my team. That's like the blast-based Universe Reps team that I think they intended people to use together. This Roshi, I will tell you right now, probably was the most influential character on the team, just because his Mafuba, I think, probably, I mean, you can't like, it's really, again, this is one of the reasons why I say it's really hard to rank these characters that have these specific, unique traits. I would assume that this Roshi's Mafuba directly influenced me winning every single one of those matches more than any other mechanic that existed on my team. Like, this Roshi's Mafuba is so insane. And I think it's really hard to understand how strong it is until somebody uses it against you. Like, you can use it against somebody else, and yeah, you'll definitely feel it's better, but you don't really appreciate how strong of an ability it is until somebody uses it against you, and you just notice that, like, being outmatched, being outgunned the entire match, like, you just have an innate disadvantage the entire time. And there's not really much you could do about it, because Roshi, like, unless you have a cover rescue ability with, like, Super Saiyan 4 Goku or somebody like that on your team, which is actually kind of tough to do, because remember, this Roshi does guaranteed draw a green card, which immobilizes you, and then you can just pop the ultimate, right? So yeah, this character just has a lot of insane abilities. Again, the guaranteed draw the green card, then he guaranteed draws the blue card, and ridiculous blast damage, anti-blast armor. But the Mafuba is just so strong, and it's so powerful that it's just, it's really, really tough for me to rank this character. Like, I feel by himself, like, if you don't even consider the Mafuba, like, how good is this character? I would say he's good, but he's not, like, top 8 material, probably. Probably not. He is good, though. He does a lot of damage with his blast cards. He has okay defense. It's nothing crazy. But when you add the Mafuba into the picture, it's just, it's probably the single most valuable mechanic in the entire game. It probably decides the outcome of the most matches in the entire game that one mechanic could possibly do. The single most game-defining mechanic is probably this Mafuba. Probably. And so when you have a character that is able to have that mechanic, like, how much do you look at other parts of his kit? I think it definitely is important to look at other parts, but, like, it's just, you cannot ignore how powerful that is. Just innately giving your team a unit advantage over your opponent. And I think the way you use this too, and I mentioned this in my God Rank Grind video where I went 17-0 with this character, is I think you just have to go ahead and use it as soon as possible. I don't think you can, like, sit there and sort of say, like, okay, well, my goal is to seal Gogeta, or my goal is to seal 17. Like, I think you just have to take it as the game gives it to you. Like, you start a combo with this character, you use your Mafuba, and you just seal whoever you can seal. I think gaining the advantage, like, guaranteed having a chance to gain the advantage, is much better than you risking not gaining the advantage, but, sealing somebody that is a better seal for you later on. But overall, this character is just ridiculous. The Mafuba ability, I think they really have to sit down. Like, if they're going to come up with another character that has a similar sealing effect to this Roshi, they're going to have to sit down and think about, like, how they balance the character. Because I think the mechanic itself, it probably is too good. I think it probably should have had some sort of time limit. I don't think it should have just been infinite. And I think they probably realize it might be too good. And so when we see a seal effect come on a future character, maybe instead of it being infinite, it's like 50 counts or something, or it's maybe 60 counts. Like, that's still really good, but I've had matches where Roshi has legitimately sealed people, enemies on my opponent's team, for 120 plus counts, basically rendering them unusable. And then a lot of the times when you finish off the two other characters, and then the sealed enemy finally is able to fight, you just rush them and it's over. Like, it's so stupid. So yeah, I have Master Roshi at number 4, but it's very tough to rank this character. He's such a unique character, and I do think they did a good job with him aesthetically. I think he's really, really cool. So number 4, Roshi. Let's move on to the top 3. We've entered the top 3, and coming in at number 3 on the list is going to be Beast Gohan. So if I think about the time when this guy released, and I think back to that time, I believe it was late October when this character released, like October 20th or 24th, something like that, so 22nd. It's kind of insane to think about that this guy is now number 3 on this list, which is also kind of scary at the same time. This character that, at the time was literally able to do pretty much every single mechanic in the game possible. They just created the ultimate being with this character. I still do have the opinion that this is the single most broken character of all time on release in this game. There was literally nothing that could have even stood up to this character even remotely. It wasn't even like multiple tiers in between this character and the number 2 character in the game at the time. But I think at this point we finally started to see other new units sort of start to creep up to this character in terms of either new abilities, like again we just saw with Roshi and Hit, like these new mechanics, sort of making these define unique attributes for these new characters. Or just sort of characters that are able to just deal with this character a lot more easily than past characters were able to. I think the biggest thing for this character is his damage obviously is still insane, and if you build the team around him the way that he was meant to be designed for a team build, you could definitely see this character's damage is probably still the best in the game. Like, if you build this guy on a pure hybrid Saiyan team, build him for pure damage, give him a Zenkai buff, and then give him all those hybrid equipments, like, probably still the most damaging character in the game. Probably even more damaging than Gogeta Blue. Like, it's close. But in terms of defense, that's where I'm sort of questioning how good this Gohan will be moving forward from here. Like, not how he's aged up until this point, but moving forward from this point forward into the future. I'm looking at his defense, and it's definitely not the best. Which I think isn't as big of an issue, just because this character was not predicated on having great defense. He was more of a character that, is starting the match out with a full unique gauge effect, with cover null, double card draw speed, like he's doing insane damage. He has green cards to reduce your whole hand to nothing. He can recover his gauge multiple times. Like, this is a character that's blue carding away type disadvantaged characters and killing them. Like, a really, really strong offensive powerhouse. But defensively, we take a look at some of these other characters. Like, I've completely destroyed Beast Gohan, 14-star Beast Gohans with Revival UI Goku, obviously type advantage, but even characters like Ultra Hit. Again, I mentioned this when I was talking about Ultra Hit. I have killed full HP 14-star Beast Gohans with a time skip from Ultra Hit. Like, again, Ultra Hit is good, but that is not a good look for this character defensively. Okay, but that's not to say that this character is still not absurd. Like, well, let's not forget this. This character probably has the single most how do I even word this? This character probably has the single most self-sufficient kit in the game. And what I mean by that is the fact that he can continue combos, gain his vanish back. Like, he pretty much does everything he needs to by himself. But if you really want to elevate him to that next level, he does require support either through Pan or just being on a hybrid team to allow him to use those ridiculous equipments and have the Zenkai abilities, right? But overall, I still think this character, even though he's aged a little bit, just because that's the natural progression of how games like this work, there's other characters that come out that are better, etc., etc., etc. This character's still insane. Like, this character's still really, really good. And I definitely don't expect him to, like, fall off a cliff at any time soon. As we get more characters moving into the anniversary this year, I think at that point, then maybe we'll start to see him less and less and less. But we will see. So, Beast Gohan number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 on the list is going to be LF Android 17. I've been trying to think of, like, the best way to explain what this guy's role is in the simplest to understand way possible. And honestly, I was thinking about it, and it almost feels like this is the opposite This character is the opposite of Beast Gohan. Beast Gohan is a character that is pretty much a character you want to build the entire team around Beast Gohan. He's supposed to be the center of attention. This character, however, this is a character who you want to use to build the team around somebody else. Right? So, for example, pretty much any character in the future comes, like literally any character comes out in the future. Let's just say the anniversary, 5th year anniversary, the headlining character is Goku and Frieza, right? Or actually, that's not a good example because that's the same team. Let's just say the anniversary is Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell fight. Okay, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Let's just pick an arbitrary character. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell fight is the 5th anniversary headlining character. One of the first characters you consider for the team is this 17, because he just makes everyone around him so much better. The healing, the debuffing on the enemies, the support in the form of sustained damage cut penetration, like that is really strong. The fact that this guy has double vanishes when he has his full gauge active, the fact that he's able to gain cover null in so many ways through the green card and through the main ability, the fact that he doesn't have his endurance nullified by characters that innately nullify endurance, and also Gogeta Blue. That's one of the biggest, I think, positive things from this character that exists right now. Gogeta Blue is definitely the most omnipresent unit in the game. I see him, I don't know, 49 times out of 50 matches. So what is that, 98% of the time I see Gogeta Blue? Pretty much I do. Like, the enemy's not running Gogeta Blue, it's just a completely different game almost. But this is one of the only characters in the game that actually is able to eat Rising Rushes from Gogeta Blue and not always die to them, because of the fact that he doesn't care about Gogeta Blue's ability to nullify endurance, because his endurance cannot be nullified, except for like characters like Goku Black and stuff like that, and Full Power Frieza. But this character's doing so much. Like this character I made the same equivalence to Future Gohan in my top 10 best designed units of all time video. But this character literally does feel like a modern version of Future Gohan. And I think I said the same thing about Zamasu in this video, but this character actually does feel like a not even just a modern version of Future Gohan, but like a modified, a modern version and an upgraded version. Like this is easily, I think, the best designed character they've ever released. I think he'll age just as good, if not even better, than Future Gohan aged. And it's going to be really hard to replace this character. I think because I guess they must have known that them having to build the Universe Reps tag pretty much from scratch going into this huge wave of Universe Reps characters coming out, they knew they had to make the baseline, the foundation, the backbone of this team insanely powerful. And that's why they designed this 17 the way that they did. And I think they did a really, really good job. They did a stellar job designing this unit. I really don't see this character falling off anytime soon. He's one of the first characters you choose to go on any team in the leader slot, just like one of the number one, units you look to help your team out. And I actually really do hope that they make similar characters to this in the future, and we can see similar kits to this character, because he's actually just ridiculously good. So LS17 coming in at number 2. Let's move on to number 1. I am sure that absolutely everybody is shocked and appalled that the number 1 character on my list is Ultra Gogeta Blue. Yeah, only the character that I see like 98% of the time in all my matches. This is like the most omnipresent character we've seen since Beast Gohan's like initial reign when he first came out. But yeah, this character is just ridiculous. I mean, you guys don't need to. You guys queue up in PvP and you will instantly know what he does. Like if you play this game at all, you already know what this character does. So I'm not going to waste my time describing what he does. I will say though that his unique gauge is just ridiculous. I mean, that's like I mentioned, like each character comes out with a defining trait, a unique ability to them that sort of makes them different than every other character that's in the game right now. And the unique trait that this character has, obviously, is his unique gauge. It's in the name, unique gauge. I guess they sort of took that to heart, right? Because every unique gauge started to blend together for a lot of these characters, and they're like, okay, maybe we should actually make these unique gauges unique in some way. So I'm actually really glad that they went down that path for the unique gauges for the past few releases. But this Gogeta's unique gauge, I mean, it's got to be the best unique gauge in the game. It's like not even close. Just counters all blast cards. Counters not only blast cards, counters all blast classification blue cards, green cards. Like it's just, and I think recently I've really started to get annoyed at the fact that he actually does counter in the middle of a sidestep animation as well. I feel like that probably shouldn't be the case. Like I think if he was in the middle of a sidestep, like it just shouldn't activate then. But yeah, this is just a ridiculous unit. I think that unique gauge specifically will age extremely well, because guess what's always going to exist in this game? Blast cards. I think that's a pretty safe assumption that blast cards will exist in this game for the foreseeable future. So yeah, not only that, the fact that he also draws blue cards, the fact that he gets cover null. Once that timer hits 120, he's just God incarnate pretty much. And pretty much the only character that is able to actually withstand this character's wrath is 17. The yellow typing right now isn't exactly what I would call spectacular. And once again, I am going to chalk this up, not entirely, but at least partially, to the fact that Trunks and Vegeta are not as good as they should be. Trunks and Vegeta, like, their existence could have entirely changed the way that the trajectory of the game went. Making Zamasu a lot better. Maybe making a lot of other red characters more relevant, which then maybe increases the value of 17 even more, maybe pushes this guy down a little bit. Like, who knows? Like, it could have actually affected way, way more of the game than we're thinking about right now. But I think Trunks and Vegeta not being as good as they should have been, being like the major yellow release of the past few months, it's kind of sad, right? So hopefully they do come out with some kind of yellow character. Either, I mean, Evolution Blue Vegeta Zenkai could be it, or maybe they're going to be releasing some kind of yellow LF or Ultra next month that will finally be some sort of counter to this character, because I think a lot of people at this point are starting to get pretty annoyed by what this character's able to do. A lot of times it definitely does feel a little bit hopeless. Like for example, if you're running Universe Reps, a blast-based team, a lot of times you will end up with a full hand of blast cards, and it's like, what do you do in that scenario? You just have to like sort of bite the bullet and deplete his gauge on purpose to sort of get rid of that and actually be able to play the game. So it does feel a little bit bad when that happens, right? It's sort of like an unavoidable scenario. But this character is just ridiculous. There's no denying that, and I think he will continue to be dominant for the foreseeable future. I think there is a potential possibility that we might see this character be replaced as number one on the list, with one of the major releases coming up pretty soon, because as we get closer to the anniversary, they are going to want for people to start, spending their stones or crystals, right? So we will see if they end up making a character to sort of overthrow this character from the number one spot. But as it stands right now, the de facto number one in the game, I think it's a pretty sizable difference as well, is Blue Gogeta. So to recap the list, we have at number 10, Red Pan. Number 9, we have Zenkai LF Super Saiyan 4 Yellow Goku. Number 8, we have Blue Zamasu. Number 7, we have Revival UI Goku. Number 6, we have the tag Super Saiyan 4s. Number 5, we have Ultra Hit. Number 4 is Master Roshi. Number 3 is Beast Gohan. Number 2 is LF17. And number 1 is Ultra Gogeta Blue. Let me know down below if you guys agree or disagree with the list. What would you change about the list? Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.